eliminated. Hold up. Did we? So we've had two teams eliminated, the 401 and the 301. They had a fantastic little back and forth in the best of 5 series. But today we're going to be focusing, starting on the 201, who have B-Man against Dillo. Of course, Dillo not on the rest of the 501's time zones, is the kind of the designated, let me go play the 201 early time slots. As you can see from the schedules that we've got, we have the 501 were scheduled last, the 201 were scheduled first, to accommodate the difficulties of hitting time zones from a global audience. So Dillo, being Australian, is in better shape for a 7 o'clock Pacific match. And then a bunch of our West Coast-based 501 players. Today's action, we're going to have B-Man versus Dillo. We won't see, but we'll get the updates from GoDog versus Cast. We'll be casting, I believe, Flower Fairy against Massau, Monst against Mater Peters, and Forgotten Arbiter against Siri. Joining me in the booth is Time for Miracle. How you doing today, Time?
Hello, Amrock. Sounds like we got some very exciting matches lined up for today.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yes, indeed.
I had such a fun stream yesterday. I'm just in such a good Mechabellum mood right now. And we have the best of the best coming to you in 2 seconds. One, welcome to MAG1 Live, everybody. B-Man versus Dillo. B-Man, incidentally, was the number 1 seed in that Elite Asia tournament and lost in round 1.
I think B-Man is requesting a reroll, by the way, so we'll probably be redoing this, I believe.
All right.
Just waiting to confirm that.
B-Man taking a look at Marksman Stormfang into Steel Ball Arclight or Opener with Supply Specialist and says, nah, I'd rather not. So that's what this was.
Reroll.
Yeah, there we go. MAG1 mod confirms. Reroll confirmed for B-Man. And you can tell if basically, in order to claim their rerolls, they run a brick formation. They don't buy anything and allow time to expire. And the reason that they do that, by the way, is because both players might opt to reroll. There's a possibility, right? And in that case, I think Match Director it doesn't want to have like we're just waiting to see who blinks first in the reroll button.
Yeah, that would certainly be pretty lame if that were the case.
Yeah, that'd just be silly.
And waste a lot of time.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll wait for our match to happen. Now, just to clarify, since we have this, did want to talk about some of the things that happened. Revives. 201 had to revive Flower Fairy. 501 revived Sako. 601 revived Siri. And 101 revived Mater Peters. So everybody brings 1 back, so they all had 4. Nobody is planning to force a player to play twice today. Everybody's got their full complement of 4. I think having seen people get... there is one. The 601 still have not twice. Revived. Yeah, 601 did not revive Baller again. Baller's still alive in the Asia. He won his round 4 match, so he's into the quarterfinals. So trying to...
Yeah, I believe they mentioned last week the reason that they didn't revive Baller is they felt like he was the weakest member of the team, so they opted to just have one of them play 2 matches instead. Yeah. I think that makes sense strategically, even if it sort of sucks for... I've been in that situation. I think I was probably the weakest link in the Team Melter in the Triple Threat Tricksters matches. So... do we want me and Rooster together in casting the same match director? All right. I mean, it looks like it's correct. I agree. I don't think Rooster's supposed to be here. That's A lot of juggling to do with all the matchmaking.
Yes, it is. And, running as match director, broadcast director, and actual tournament on the ground is pretty difficult. That is why we had those roles separated for the Launch Clash tournament.
Yeah, it's particularly complicated for us here since we allow rerolls, so having to remake lobbies, which I'm guessing the other lobby probably also remade or was delayed in some way since it's still happening.
Right.
But yeah, that's a lot.
Right. MAG1, take 2. B-Man versus Dillo. Speaking of, the roster actions included a couple of substitutions. Where was that? Substitutions confirmed were Zillalag substituted in for Apucci. Apucci was not feeling it after the... I really wasn't feeling it last weekend, and I think the long day had really played a part of it. So I think that's part of what's going on there. We had... what other substitutions?
Also, the lore for the 501 substitution, by the way, is that Dachshund and Zillalag played for whoever is playing for this match, which is Zillalag, as I understand it. So I think
nice. They had a qualifying match to see who got subbed in.
Yeah, basically.
Brilliant. And obviously, we had Monst chosen as the 601 representative to dupe up, and it looks like Jer player 101 had to select from the not eliminated roster, so they did have a person eliminated. So they picked Jer player as their addition, so he subs in for an eliminated player, and that was it. Who's off that? Who is the eliminated on that team right now? Take a quick look. Welcome to...
we are in match with B-Man and Dillo.
Perfect. Go ahead.
B-Man goes for supply sledge immediately. No hesitation, no reroll on this time.
I didn't see the reroll coming, no. I like having my econ, thank you very much. What
And
do you like
Dillo
for
has some
Dillo?
pretty acceptable aggro packs, probably the Badger pack here. Either one's incredible for defending. Yeah, he goes to the Badger pack. I think Dillo tends to favor aggro as well, so I think he's probably pretty happy with this. I'm not really sure if B-Man favors a particular thing, but he tends to play both, I think.
You're saying a 501 player favors aggro. Shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking that a member of this team might favor aggro.
Well, Dillo is a good defense player too, so he can probably play both just fine. But I tend to see him play more aggro than not. And B-Man is, of course, defending as expected, although his Fang positioning is not as expected. And his crawler positioning. This is like some anti-flank pull tech, but you also don't need to do this. I haven't tested this for Fangs, so I guess it might be different for Fangs, but you don't need to do this with the beacon trick currently in the game that allows you to alter the facing of units before the round starts, so I'm not really sure what exactly this is intended to accomplish on round 1, but it's very unique. I cannot say I've ever seen someone position their chaff behind their tower 2 ticks this direction. Normally it's 2 ticks towards the outer part of the board on both sides mirrored.
So I've been running this crawler formation for anti-pull, and Fang I have occasionally run it 1 tick inside like this. For exactly what you're talking about, and that I wasn't aware that you can kind of guarantee the non-pull, and there are formations at which you can't, right? So, if your opponent isn't coming out aggro, there becomes some spots where you can't just force it to walk past, deep versus deep, and there's no running crawler, that sort of thing. But
yeah, the interesting thing is that you can even do the full greedy historical vertical crawler behind the tower with the beacon pull, so you don't even have to have it horizontal and just beacon it that way. You can go for the fully greedy thing. Obviously, it forces you to buy a beacon, which might not be ideal, which is why you don't see people just like do it every single time, no matter what.
Right.
But the Fang thing in particular is a bit more unusual, but I guess it does like very slightly increase the speed at which your Fangs get to your defending porting your line, like on average for both sides, right? Since it's both closer to the middle, so
right.
That way it's a little bit better.
Yeah, if you were expecting an offset, you get that Fang into the middle. I see it. Quick teleport for B-Man.
I think the actual problem is that you no longer like defend your flanks from air reliably unless you can beacon it that way. I'm not really sure, but so in that way it's like he's a bit less well defended against flanks, but also like I guess his Fang is less likely to be pulled to flanks, which is a bit advantageous for him. But very unusual positioning. Interesting to think about how it impacts the game. Both take quick teleport. Dillo is indeed a flank enjoyer, which maybe that's the reason that B-Man's chosen to position this way in the first place. Instantly goes the quick tele Badger on the flank. And B-Man also has it, of course, so may see some proactive play from him.
We do level 1 Wasp on the flank. I had heard this in scouting report that this is something that B-Man has been enjoying, is the level 2 air. Round 2 air if there is no back defense. And I wonder if Dillo is covering it with a Wasp on the one side. Are you going to covering it with a missile on the one side? Is he going to cover it with a Wasp on the other? Is that the play here? Or is the Wasp just part of the aggro?
Certainly might be. B-Man is positioned fully symmetrical, so not really too much to gain from putting the Wasp on a particular side. Looks like he will be joining the main group.
So it's a flank screen crawler to pick up the potential of the Wasp out here, right? So that they would have targeted that and started following it, started chasing it. So Dillo very much playing around the scouting report, the round 2 air from Dillo, really nicely done. Does win this side. You can see that about half of that Fang pack got pulled, but not all of it. So B-Man does have the defense that he wants on the left side. Of course, it also means that they weren't out there defending against the right, but they honestly weren't going to last very long against the Badger. I do almost wonder if guessing this Badger play was part of why B-Man did that offset Fang that we did, that is so unique.
Could be. Usually it's not that hard to answer the flank Badger, but maybe he is anticipating Wasp shenanigans from his opponent, and therefore he thinks that having less resources necessary to dedicate to the Badger to stop it from killing his chaff is advantageous for him, which makes sense to me.
Right. Nano repair for Dillo. Both players have a flank they have to answer. Unanswered right now, the Wasp and the Fire Badger. Of course, Dillo can, it's not the most economic way to do this, you can keep missiling that out all day, but of course you're risking B-Man adding a crawler in front. And B-Man takes the deployment module, so he'll be able to teleport somebody out of there if that's what he wants. Or in this case, it's teleporting sledgehammers from the weak side to the strong side. So he's got his vertical sledges in positions. Adds a Wasp in defensive position, and Dillo just committing into that flank with a crawler and a Wasp. So his crawlers answer basically tanking for this Wasp. His Wasps answer the Rhino, that would be the obvious counter to this deployment. So he's going to win that flank again, I think. There's just about no way he doesn't. And he's leveled up the right side tower, his left, our right. So the jump drive Wasps are going to take a while, even with the nice little pull from B-Man.
Yeah, kind of interesting to see a second Wasp here from B-Man too. It's not guaranteed to take care of the Badger flank if Dillo commits harder to it like he did here, so it's a little risky. Particularly since Wasps don't clear crawlers that well. Wow, really nice Wasp spread.
That timing was super nice, and the one Wasp eats the missile. Goodness.
Yeah, that's really, really sad to see if you're Dillo here. I think these are B-Man's Wasps, right? On top? Yeah, looks like it. Yeah. That is a -50 for one Wasp.
Yes. On the other hand, it is a round win for Dillo. 3 rounds in, and B-Man is already down to 1156.
I think that really showcases how little HP the Sledgehammer supply opener has. This is a big reason that a lot of people dislike playing Sledges and aggro, is because it has such low HP to start with, so... In defense, you're not as likely to suffer infinite damage in early game, but in either case, if you do suffer infinite damage, you're in a really bad spot, like immediately, very quickly, if you have such low starting HP. And particularly with these wash shenanigans, I feel like it's exceptionally powerful versus these low HP openers, because you just like miss one cover on one thing one time and you suddenly lose 1000 HP. That's like, you know, a third of your whole health bar if you're playing such a low HP opener, so very risky position for B-Man.
Look at this bottom right. He's going to answer our Badger Crawler Wasp with a single missile. That'll slow down, and then he repositioned his wasp back. So the missile will slow down the Badgers. Now he's got added a Typhoon to it. That makes much more sense. The missile was what he was thinking originally. His original positioning, what I was reading was, missile slows down the Badger. Dillo's wasps overfly the slowed down Badger into Wasp v Wasp range. But then you're still at, you know, even Stevens, right? It's not you're not aerial specialist here.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty hard flank to answer, because Dillo could just sell off the Badger and jump the Wasp out. Yeah, right. He doesn't have jump bot yet, but he does have it in the bar, of course. So he could just move the entire thing, and there could be nothing there for B-Man, so that's part of what makes this position so difficult to navigate for him, is because Dillo could just not have anything there, but also he could just have it there. So
right.
You're forced to answer it, because you could just die and lose the game instantly if you don't answer it, right?
Right. You could be down to a single crawler, or you could be on something reinforced, or teched, right? So.
Very nice missile again from Dillo, killing
this
some more wasps.
This one was better, significantly better.
Much better than the last one.
Inverse of the last one, it left one live up.
Yeah. Left one alive both times. Wasp's always doing some shenanigans. But really odd to see the acid from B-Man here. This is probably the earliest acid I've seen in like, I don't know how many months, like really long time from a high level player, so a bit unusual. Certainly combos very well with the oil, which you certainly expect to be paired with it this turn, your Dillo. So maybe you'll see him try and beacon away from this or something, because I don't know why else you would think that your opponent would click Acid Crawler unless they want to oil you immediately afterwards. But maybe he just thinks it's that good, I don't know. Very unusual play regardless. Maybe he's as stun locked as I am thinking about it. Mm-hmm. We can obviously see the oil, so it's much easier for us to be like, ah yes, this is the reason, but Phil is a good player, so I'm sure he'll figure it out. Or he'll get acided this turn.
Yes, or he'll get acided. There's the jump drive to get out of there. We expect the sell from the Badger as well.
So I think like one more turn here is probably all B-Man really needs to stabilize pretty heavily. He just needs like one more set of Typhoons on the right side, and then it's like really hard to do any more wash shenanigans to him. And at that point, I think that Dillo loses a lot of tempo, because there isn't really a good way to transition the Wasps into something that will be useful against the Typhoon Sledge board, of course, so...
Yeah, but
we'll probably see them get sold next turn.
Yeah, I was interested to see the jump drive move. I mean, I know it's only 50, but if you're gonna transition into selling them anyways...
No, I mean, you just always do it. Like, even just making them faster, you could just do it off rip, even for speed, which you see Red Hair do a lot. Which is also a root of... Oh, this beacon is kind of funny. They're both just, like, passing each other.
Yes. Well, ship's passing in the night, but I love the way that he's answering the missile. With the Dillo, I mean, is taking care of the missile with the lead level 1 wasps. That made much more sense out of why he jumped it off the flank to me.
Yeah, I mean, basically the goal is just to have the front wasp act as like a crawler that doesn't pull ground chaff, right? Mm-hmm. It's there to eat the missile for you and let your actually good wasp get in, so definitely makes a lot of sense to see it that way. Acid working out quite nicely for B-Man. And I don't think that B-Man really minds having the wasps in his board as much as Dillo, so I don't think he's anywhere near as pressured to sell them as Dillo may be. Although, we'll see how deep Dillo takes the wasp play here. Who knows, maybe he takes these worms and he just shoves the wasp behind him and says, "You're gonna stay alive. Truly the worm tanks for you." Not the most reliable tank, the worm, but very, very, very hard to kill. So,
how would you have felt? How would you have felt about storms for Dillo onto this super static, slow defense that B-Man gets in front of the left side tower?
I don't know. Storms in aggro are always really weird. Like, on the one hand, like a level 1 storm is really effective, and a level 3 storm is very effective for one turn, and then it gets anti-missiled. But maybe one turn's all you need if you're Dillo, right? So
right, you're at 1156. Catch him by surprise. Okay, he's gone to the Overlord anyways. So
yeah, it's hard to tell exactly how effective Storm's going to be versus these vertical sledges too, because like sometimes you'll see that it just. The pathing in this game is like very RNG, right? So sometimes you may splash, and also storms are very RNG. So, you know, if your first volley off your level 3 storm color like one shots 3 sledges, then like it's pretty insane, right? But if it hits like one and takes it to half health, it's really bad for you, right? So I think that's another reason that you're not really that eager to play storms in aggro. Yeah. Even independent of like the whole like it's good for one turn and then like you have to win the following turn without it type thing that goes on with the dynamic between storms and anti-missiles at the moment. Looks like all the flanks are taken care of very easily, and also looks like this fire plus oil might be really nasty. I think B-Man's own units are standing in acid here. This level 4
units are standing in his own acid. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's really a big reason that you don't see people click defensive acid super often, is because your own crawler positioning suddenly becomes like exceptionally lethal to you sometimes, and especially with how like fire interacts with crawlers at the moment, it's very, very risky at times, as we can see here.
Yeah, I was going to say specifically, if you are a player working on your defense, you want to be thinking about that in terms of your crawler positioning. If you're going to use acid in defense this way, you sort of need to have a plan for it. And yeah, it's got to be a plan from round 1, right? To have the correct positionings, or it's got to be a late tech taken to finish. B-Man did not do that. Dillo punished it, and you know, obviously Dillo has no idea when that fire or when that oil was going to land, right? So he didn't necessarily shield. It's a really nice set of plays from Dillo to finish this out.
Yep, nice work finding a play that can finish out the game. Very hard to play around oil being able to be used at any point in time and having a Fire Badger ignite it. But also on the acid point, it obviously has some potential, but we can't ever untack acid, right, off our crawler once it's on, so it definitely incurs a lot of risk unless you're against War Factory, in which case it's in some ways even necessary in certain board states to solve the War Factory, so would definitely not recommend trying to emulate this. This is a don't try this at home kind of thing.
Yep.
Very dangerous.
I'm glad we saw the reason it's dangerous, right? We got to really clearly demonstrate that for the audience.
Yeah, also really demonstrates the toxicity of tower oil. Because, as we said, B-Man can't really just like shield everything every round for the rest of the game, particularly against steel balls that may even just like farm the shield for HP and tanking, which is sometimes a hazard. You don't see lifesteal get clicked that often nowadays, but certainly it's a thing that happens from time to time.
Right. If you don't know what Time is talking about there, he's referring to the fact that the lifesteal, the what do you call it? Absorption tech.
Yeah, I think it's energy
actually absorbs
the proper name.
It absorbs hit points even off of damage dealt to a shield, which is a little bit unintuitive to me, and caught me out when I first learned it. So if you didn't know that, that is a true statement. Looks like we will be setting up for our second match here. We've got so we saw Dillo beat B-Man do we know what happened in the GoDog cast match, or is that ongoing?
I think Match Director is having audio issues. We also have Cast with us in the boost for an interview. Hello, Cast.
Hello.
Well then. How did your match go, sir? Would you like to give us an update?
Oh, it was a loss, sadly. So a bit of a bad one. Yeah, I don't know. We're still kind of processing what went on in the game, but the last round was quite close and we didn't alone, so that was a mistake.
Yeah.
But yeah, GoDog defended very well.
So you were
Is the
the
601 team doing a co-op, by the way, when you say we? Like, are you
come again?
Like on call with Siri and Monst while you're playing?
Yeah, we are.
I see. Yeah, I think you mentioned that last week, but I just wanted to confirm because, you know, things get a little bit fuzzy from week to week. But yeah, so how's that going for you guys, by the way? I think 501's doing that this week as well. What's that like, playing like as a co-op or just as a groupthink kind of thing?
It's very interesting, actually. I feel like the first week wasn't that fruitful. This time around, the second week was very helpful for all of the games we did that on. We only didn't do it for the series match, but me and Monst were on the voice chat in each other's games, and I think that was extremely good. Like just having these sanity checks and reminding if there's something that needs to be done, and just it's very interesting. Liking it.
Right, for sure. Could you give any concrete examples of like what way you found it interesting, if you have anything come to mind?
What did you find interesting?
Interesting or helpful about having someone else with you, as far as beyond the reminders, like anything specific?
Well, Monst said in his match that I was ghosting him on, that it was very useful that I was like, no, don't pick the Mustang drop, that's garbage. And then just analyzing what you should do. These little things, like something that you might not be focused on yourself as a player, but I see that, it would be a slight optimization if you sell the sledges on this side, because we are gonna place a worm there anyway, and there is no need for the sledges there because there is a worm. Or like, hey, maybe this tech could be useful, like click Fang Shield, and you're not focused on that. You have tunnel vision on other stuff, so that sort of stuff for sure. Or like, yeah, you should definitely miss out now. Like, we're just gonna win. That's our only losing condition is if we don't miss out this and we lose the flank,
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like having someone else that's able to like see more of the big picture type thing and find like small things that aren't being noticed is very helpful.
Yeah. And
I think that's a really interesting part of it. Very cool. I think, by the way, we have about 40 more seconds for the match starts. Emrock, do you have any questions that you wanted to ask before we finish up?
No, I don't think so. Simply, the question is, what if, are you guys content with the risk of having, potentially having 2 more players eliminated and not even having a player eligible for the final match? Or are you just confident, one of my guys will win that one? We'll win one of their matches and that'll be enough?
I think we'll go through, but it's never certain. It can happen, but you have to take risks. So I think that's a part of it, even though we were the second in the scoring ranking. We still think we have to take risks.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join the cast. We are into our second match, which features Massau from the 101. The team captain of the French team is going to be near side and blue. Far side is Flower Fairy, the Flower Fairy of Penglai, who has already taken Fire Badger with Arclight and Storm. We're waiting for Massau's pick.
Yes, I think the Flower Fairy's pick definitely tells you they're going to be playing defense/standard, which I believe is their favorite style of play. Massau's is probably more stilted towards aggro, but I believe he plays both, so we'll see what he chooses. Looks like it's going to be an aggro. And perhaps also he is aware of the fact that Flower Fairy has, I believe, rated themselves. They've self-reported that they are worse on defense than on standard. I think their 201 intro video is something along the lines of like, they are a 10 on standard and a 7 on defense or something like that. So
right.
Perhaps that also explains this choice from Massau. Oh, I kind of like this positioning of the spiders versus the Stormcaller on round 1 with the Quellers. Normally as aggro, it feels really bad to place a Queller not on the actual line. Like the in-game line on turn 1 is 2 spaces back from where it's supposed to be. Right, so it feels a bit bad to not have a Queller exactly on the line. Particularly a vertical Queller versus Stormcallers, but this is a way for him to have higher tempo on turn 1 versus Flower Fairy's opener. Since at least partially the Stormcallers will not splash the spiders, and we'll kill a little bit of this Queller since it is positioned vertically, unless Massau changes that. But that's an acceptable loss to not have your spider get insta-locked by a storm on round 1. Just always a hard choice to make, to commit to not having Quellers in line. But maybe if you're a faster board, it's easier to make, so with a slow board like Spider, it feels exceptionally bad, I think. Spider is such a slow unit, so it loses quite a lot from not having its shaft be positioned as far forward as possible.
But on the other hand, that is exactly why we needed it not insta-locked. It's too slow to walk out from under.
Yeah. Ever since the first few rounds of Spider HP nerfs, it's felt quite bad in the Stormcaller matchup, as you can tell by it losing 75% its health. One volley. It looks like the Quellers are doing some good stuff. Maybe he manages to get a 1 storm loss. It's probably about the best possible outcome you can hope for here. Oh, not quite. Spider vs Storm is really rough with the current Spider HP. Used to, you just kind of beat everything as Spider, but Spider now is a little sad. Beats Sledges, obviously beats Mustangs, everything beats Mustangs, but versus Storms, there is not even RNG. You're dead.
You're just too big to miss by RNG.
Yeah.
Of course, Flower Fairy, one of the things, whether he's playing defense or allowed to play standard, one of the things he's exceptionally good at is economy. And it will be really fascinating to see his choices as we go. I'm very interested to see what he does. So we've got the missiles for both players. That's sort of free. It costs you 50. He takes Phoenix to pair with the Fire Badgers. So you're going to have Fire Badgers to answer the crawlers. Missile is answering crawlers. And Phoenix to clean up the tarantulas, even if something gets the storms on that side. And look at the positioning is such that he won't be, even if the missile is on the attack side, which is what he's guessing. He's playing around a missile on this unit. He's got the Phoenix over there to play cleanup. For Massau, he's adding the full Monst style cage. Let's go. We're committing to tarantulas, 2 of them on the flank. And we'll have you surrounded in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, extremely committal play from Massau going into the double tarantula flank on turn 2 like this. Not something you would expect to see from a non-quick supply tarantula opener, I would think, but this is certainly the line where you're taking. Very, very dangerous. Very high tempo, but very dangerous, so we'll see how it goes out for him in the next few rounds.
Okay, brief update, casters. We're seeing errors in the friends list where players who are online are showing as offline. We're having players restart client. We're restarting client on our end, and in some cases it's still not resolving. In that instance, we're having the player who can see the match director start matchmaking. So that's what we were coping with. All
right, so we've got some technical difficulties with players not who is online, who is offline, not showing correctly. I do actually wonder how much we have reached some back-end server performance issues that Bearlake and his team are going to need to be addressing. Things that we're not seeing as, in terms of the way that our game clients are presenting things, but noticing the way that the tournament, the weekend and weekly tournaments update, the who's in the list, makes me wonder if that list has gotten too long to send out to all players, or the way that they're processing it has gotten too long.
Yeah, I think the server, as a whole, went down recently due to having too many players online or something. So, nice problem to have, I guess.
Well, there was that, but there was also a intentional DDoS attack that Bearlake told me about. So, they had
I see.
one of those server outages on it that essentially was timed to KO the last week's weekend European, I believe, is the one that got biffed, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, in any case, the worst possible case scenario has happened here for Massau in this game. The worst thing that could possibly happen if you were playing Spider is that you commit to 2 Spiders additionally on turn 2, and then there's a triple Saber drop on turn 3. I don't think it gets any worse than that. So that is really, really, really catastrophic for Massau. I don't really know how you're supposed to come back from that, because the Sabers very cleanly and very cheaply kill the Tarantulas, which oftentimes can be a bit difficult. Not to say it's like an exceptionally hard unit to defend, but it's hard to deal with it a little cheaply and effectively with like as few deploys as possible compared to some units when it has like mines on the flanks like this. But Sabretooth just says, I have double shot for $100, I don't care about your Spider, you're dead. That's pretty good, as it turns out. Also, it's quite good against Rhino Specialist, so once again, this is basically the worst possible drop that could have happened in the whole game, I think, if you're Massau here, so it will be very hard to come back from this, given that he has basically no tempo, in addition to not having any HP.
We talked about how efficiently Flower Fairy answers things. You have Sabretooth Double Shot, one of the cheapest techs, really doubling the output. That is going to kind of perfectly handle the Rhino. Of course, he knows Massau is a Rhino specialist, so he doesn't know where the Rhino is coming from, but he assumes it's going to be attacking, possibly assumes, that it might be attacking his weak side tower. So he's got a missile to slow something down or clear out the chaff, either or, and a Sabretooth there to start doing some real damage to the Rhino.
Yeah, it should clear in like 3 shots. I guess less than that with the storms on it too. It's just RNG how many times the storms hit, but should die in 3 Saber shots, so should be like 100% dead with no questions asked. And also there's Scholars too, if that wasn't enough. Or Rhino. Honestly, maybe even would have preferred to try and see it somewhere with the main push, because again, it's just so easy and like simple and cheap for Flower Fairy to answer the Rhino on that side, and certainly if you're Flower Fairy in that spot, you assume that will happen, very, very likely. And yeah, I don't know. Spot is really horrible for Massau, so
yeah, I
don't see him being able to come back from this one. That is a very, very, very brutal drop if you are the Tarantula player.
Only thing I'd ask you about, I guess, is Massau saw that drop as a possibility and committed into attack on his Tarantulas.
Was there a line? To commit.
He had to, okay.
I mean, maybe you could like try and sell the triple Saber drop is so much tempo, right? That's the problem. It's like both it is the best tempo drop if there was not an additional like triple level 1 offered, which I didn't see if there was or wasn't, but it's the best tempo that you can get, and it beats the Rhino, which, you know, bye-bye to your specialist, basically, right? Like, that sucks in and of itself. It's like when you're playing aerial specialist and your opponent's like Marksman Mustang or something. It's like very sad. But even worse than that, because Saber's actually a good unit, right? Unlike those things. But yeah, I think he just like has to commit and hope that something happens that is really good for him. I'm not sure what's good enough to solve that situation. Because even Sabers level really easily, right? And once they level, they actually one-tap your Tarantula. It's not even just like an almost one-tap that might require an additional shot, so... And on top of that, your board's slow, so you're very vulnerable to being flanked like this from a Phoenix flank or like a Wasp flank or like anything, right? That's like several of the biggest weaknesses of Tarantulas. They're answered by one of the most efficient and powerful tempo drops that you can get. And also, they're very slow, so they're very vulnerable to oil, very vulnerable to being flanked. There's like all kinds of problems with Tarantulas. Poor Tarantulas, man. Such a sad unit. It was pretty obnoxious when its HP was a lot higher, but man, current Tarantula is like really sad, I think.
It is not going to have any answers to an absorption module double tap Saber, especially not after this tower goes down.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I didn't even remember to mention the double shot. Like, if we couldn't kill the Saber before it had the absorption, we definitely can't kill it after it has the absorption, right? Assuming we're clearing any chaff at all, which Flower Fairy's board definitely is able to do with all the arc lights.
And Flower Fairy had the defensive missile. Defensive missile gets things covered. Also note, Flower Fairy is using the arc lights as his mine clear. which is, in my opinion, or at least what I have found, it's one of the cheapest ways to clear mines. And that's a lot of hit point damage. Massau down to 459, and yeah, kind of. Can I reroll now?
That's what I was thinking when I saw that drop. I'm like, man, can we get a drop reroll? Can we just like replay the match if that happens? Like, damn, that sucks.
It is a little rough,
even more tempo here for Flower Fairy. Tempo that shoots up also. Typhoon triple is very, very strong. Obviously a bit weak into the Scorp drop potentially, but... And obviously the Scorp is another thing that helps answer things Massau might do for Flower Fairy. So if he just does not care about the potential of like Wasp or whatever, then that is perfectly acceptable. Or you can just sell it, you know? You don't even have to use it if you don't want to. You can just buy some forts, get some anti-air, the birds are all gone. The spiders can't kill the birds. It's doomed. Super doomed looking. And if all that wasn't enough, there's also oil.
Well, if defense is his weakness, yeah, this looked pretty strong. Admittedly, it has all come out of that drop, for sure.
Yeah, not to say that Flower Fairy played bad or anything, but it's certainly a really, really, really amazing drop to get. Very hard to lose in that position, I think, unless something bails your opponent out super hard. I think Tarantula and Sledge kind of share this weakness in a similar fashion, although some people don't hate Sledge as much as I do, which is kind of funny, by the way, because historically I'm the big Sledge salesman.
Yes,
also kind of nice to hear from Flower Fairy. This is intended to dodge a greedy flank defense missile. Obviously, it goes to the Farseer defense, so it doesn't dodge it, but that is the purpose of that. If they draw the missile like behind the tower to where it can't be eaten by a crawler that's killing the tower, then that Phoenix will dodge that, so... Interesting attempt to try and keep the Phoenix in the flank and gain some value. Obviously, you don't have to gain that value to win here if you're Flower Fairy, but if you do manage to get it, you guaranteed win, right? So it gives your opponent an opportunity to blunder, which is important, I think. Gives yourself as many opportunities to win as possible.
It's a really good way to think about it, right? You want to give yourself as many opportunities to win, give yourself the chances to get lucky if you need to. Really nice, really clean game from Flower Fairy. And probably, as you said, maddening from Massau. Or for Massau, I should say. Incidentally, that game was being played for double or nothing stakes. We had seen that in the text chat before the match started. So Flower Fairy takes the double or nothing win over Massau. And Shade versus French Pilot will be going on concurrently. Anything you want to add to this one?
Not really. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I think that it is very, very hard for Flower Fairy to lose there. You didn't even see him use the ult to the last round too, right? Which is pretty telling, I think, against spiders. Like, if you're in such a good spot that you don't even need to oil, that shows that you're receiving, like, no pressure against a spider player, I think.
Right.
So it's kind of just like I don't know what he might be doing in the last round, but if it's something strong that's ground-based, then the oil will definitely screw it, and if it's like Wraith or something, then the chaff is like behind the Wraith because it's slower than the oil. Like it's just such a hard spot to lose from, I think.
Yeah, and I have the anti-air from the previous piece.
Yeah, and he also clicked anti-air for it, so
it's like
very,
really covering,
very hard.
Yeah, I was gonna say really covering all the angles, and that's that is one of the ways you win, right? Be able to perceive what your opponent's angles are, and run them.
Well, anyways, looks like we're getting into Shade versus French Palettes as our interim before our next match. It looks like Shade has Rhino Specialist, Subsidized Steel Ball, Efficient Giant, Assault Fortress. He's playing some kind of Vulcan 4 on the line. That is... Oh, he's playing Punch also. Oh, super cool. In fact, it's his first tech. And I didn't really get to look at too much what French Pilot's board was, so we'll see after this round, but... Unless he's dead. He's not dead, right? That's like very close to enough damage. I don't think it's quite enough though. I think that's like 1200. It's like 950 plus... Oh, maybe it's exactly enough. Or no, I think there's like 1270 damage on board. It's just barely not enough. We'll get to see at least one rounds.
Well, it does not look like I will, so or my viewers will. So if you don't mind a narration, because whatever is going on the back end is also preventing me from finding that match.
Interesting. All right. Well, I got you. Don't worry. So we have some punch forts on the line with some blue steel balls, and there are Vulcans right behind them, which is very unorthodox. Very cool. I'm guessing aggro board from Shade. We don't actually know if he started aggro or started defense here. Probably he started aggro, based on his color positioning, but it's a bit hard to tell. Be my assumption though. In French Palette, I also can't really tell, but probably started defense. Not sure. Maybe they were headbutts. French Palette's Typhoon spec has some boats, has some ranged steel balls, has like no chaff up front at all. Very miserable to be against punch fort in this position. Does not look good at all. Oh, also has EMP marksman for the punch. I see. Oh, he's clicked loose formation. Loose formation against Vulcan. That is definitely a mistake. I've labbed this. It does not do anything, sadly. You get like approximately like 5% increased shaft durability or something versus Vulcan. It does not do anything. And I don't... Well, also it's bad versus Replicate, because you lose Crawler HP, so... That is definitely just a waste of money. Feels bad, man. But feels really good if you're Shade here. Your opponent has made their Crawlers actively worse in every matchup that exists on the board. Last round was not very close, though. It also does, in a way, kind of increase the durability versus, like, Punch, for example. It means that, like, it's harder for the Punch to, like, one-shot an entire pack, or maybe even slows down the rate at which they get to the front of the board, to some extent, perhaps. Not sure if that's actually how that plays out, but maybe it makes their board a little bit better versus Punch. Maybe it's part of it. Looks like there is one bird left to kill all the boats. No, sorry, 2 birds. 1 pack of birds. Yeah, actually looks like it goes Shade's way this time. It was not close at all last round. Not sure if there's a spell or something that influenced that, or if something different was added, but massive, massive round for Shade. More than 2,000 damage dealt.
Oof.
There is a bunch of things that probably don't matter offered, unless there is some redeploy to the offside. They're playing Headbutt with basically no defense on the offsides. So you could have seen some redeploy shenanigans here, perhaps with some boat cannon stuff. French Palette does not have that though. Yeah, he has launcher overload boats. Also has completely untacked boats, which is a little weird. Perhaps he got them from a drop like the round we joined. I'm not too sure. But it looks like the Fortress Anti-Air will wrap it up, if I had to guess. Means that he can much more reliably kill the boats this round, doesn't have to rely on one Phoenix being alive. Does get disabled by EMP Marksman, but last round he pretty handily smashed the front of French Palette's board, so... I anticipate that it will not be too hard to win this round. Very nice showing from the Punch Forts, although I think a big reason it does look so good is because French Palette does have almost no chaff at the front of the board. And also, of course, Shade has the Replicate Crawlers that are stopping like this Fang from existing, so... Basically, there's like 2 Fangs in front of all this. There's like 1 Crawler here, 1 Crawler here, 1 Crawler here, right? But unless it's a shield or something just like this, then it's pretty hard to avoid getting punched. That's even like disrespecting the possibility that Shade could like flank over here and pull a lot of this too, right? So, I don't know, very rough position. Even just the Crawlers are a really big problem at this point, since loose formation has been clicked and that does lower the Crawler HP, meaning even if he did click like Impact Drill, I'm not sure they'd still win the 1v1. I haven't labbed that particular interaction since loose formation is fairly weak now, and you're probably not too concerned with your Crawler 1v1 if you're clicking loose formation, but I would guess that is not very advantageous for him. Also, gotta say, this board that Shade has is very representative of Shade as a player, I think. Shade is probably like the only person that I've ever seen that just adores aggro Vulcan. He is just a Vulcan enthusiast. Like, that's how you know you're an aggro 201 player, I think, is that you like aggro Vulcan.
Aggro Vulcan. Does he actually run Assault Vulcan, that one, the one tech?
Oh,
the
is
one
there
card?
a particularly
Assault
Vulcan?
No,
yeah, there's the card, of course,
yeah.
but I don't think there's any techs that lean well into aggro Vulcan necessarily.
All right. So full all sorts of server issues going on today. All right, we will have Godog and B-Man joining us in a moment. B-Man, of course, the 201 team captain, and Godog is operating as translator. Did you get to the finish of that match?
Yes, we are finished the match. Sorry, I forgot
Shade,
you can't see it.
Yeah, Shade won that one. So that makes 3 wins in a row for the 201, including their double or nothing. That is a big round since they guys came into today in 4th place at 90 points, needing to make up 30 on 101 above you. How do you guys feel after the after your day? Feel like you've achieved what you needed?
We do have some pre-scripted questions for
okay. Go ahead.
Dog and B-Man.
Go ahead then with those.
Because I think they do them beforehand to make sure that everything's all good with that. So
right,
we just want to go with those ones.
Yeah.
Oh, good dog. So our first question for you is, we want to know more about the competitive scene in China. So how does 201 study and practice the game of Mechabellum as individual players and as a team?
鲨鱼，中国的竞争环境是什么样子的？比如说厉害的玩家，还有比赛之类的。
OK，201的实力强劲的选手其实有很多啊。我们这次来参赛的只是其中的一部分。国内的高手，比如丹真呀、神皇呀，他们都没能来参赛。他们都是锦标赛的冠军常客。国内各种比赛角逐非常的激烈。这次201举办的国庆大奖赛，花千经过多轮的鏖战，取得了第1名的好成绩。在上周三大洲的锦标赛，201也包揽了所有的冠军，这也侧面的证明了我们201的实力很强劲。好
There are many great 201 players, such as Blue Hair and StarCraft 2 Panda. Even though they are not in this MAG1, they are champions and win tournaments. Last week, 201 won all 3 of the in-game tournaments. This proves our strength in competition. We host our win competitions every 2 weeks, every 2 months. Fairy won our last tournament.
Awesome, thanks for sharing some more about that. Our next question is, will 201 be competing in the cash ladder for MAG1? Will 201 expand their roster to include new players in the cash ladder? And that's it.
That's the third question, right?
Oh, I see. That was interpreted as the first question. I got you. Yes, the second question is, how does 201 study and practice the game of Mechabellum as individual players and as a team?
201的个人玩家和我们队伍是如何学习或练习钢铁指挥官的？
作为个人训练，我比较喜欢把所有输的高分对局集中起来观看，总结每一个高手对手的打法和习惯，进行长时间的复盘训练，从中找出失败的原因，练习最优的对抗策略，提升自身的实力。团队的训练主要由于队员的这个空闲时间不固定性，我主要是在让我们的这个参赛对手观看我们即将比赛对手的录像，研究打法和风格，进行有针对性的团队两的训练，来提升团队的实力。
Personally, I usually practice through review, which helps me summarize how each high-scoring player plays, find out the reasons for my failure, and the best way to fight against them. About team training, it is difficult to schedule times for all players to meet. To improve our team by watching videos.
'Definitely sounds like a productive mindset. Thanks for sharing on that as well. I think Godog is finished speaking there. Not sure if...
There is a bug on my Discord.
Yes, we have a
you're
bad
good.
connection.
No worries.
Yes. Which I said later. I will translate Biman's word again.
Okay.
Personally, I practice through review, which helps me summarize how each high-scoring player plays, find out the reason failure and the best way to fight against them. About team training, it's difficult to schedule times for all players to meet. We improve our team by watching videos, discussing opponent styles, and civil war.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing about that. So our last question
We have 2 seconds.
is... we have 2 seconds. All right, well, I think that means we are finished the interview then. Thank you for joining us, Good Dog and B-Man. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so getting into Monks versus Miter Peters. Miter Peters is speed. Speed Steel Ball, definitely going to be an aggro opener. Monks is a marksman specialist, Sledge Fang.
Sledge Fang
Man,
Gaming, let's go!
It was so sad to see Monks playing defense. I can't express enough how sad it is.
Monst is a
Monks
very fun
historically-
aggro player. Yes.
He is, but it's so sad seeing him play defense, because historically he just loves aggro so much. Like, I learned so much about playing aggro and like caging people from Monks, and then now he just plays defense, and it makes me so sad. But at least he has no oil profile picture, so at least he's an honorable defense player, I guess.
So just setting the stage for this one, the 201 and the 101 came into this weekend's action with 101 30 points ahead, and the top 3 qualify. 501 were in a pretty dominant position, and their real danger was, if anybody was eliminated, Dillo winning the first match against B-Man ensured that wasn't going to happen. 601 are definitely in danger of having elimination if they don't get a win or 2. But the real battle today is the 201 versus the 101, and with Flower Fairy and Shade both winning and the double for nothing, the 201 have gone from 30 points down to 20 points ahead of the 101, and Mater Peters and Jer Player playing concurrently right now. Both need to win, or one of them needs to win a double or nothing to get themselves to essentially tied or ahead.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note too, even just from like a full disqualification perspective, not even just like winning and points wise, if both Miter Peters and Jer Player lose, the 101 is eliminated, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. They would have lost all 4 today. But
yeah,
winning 1 doesn't get them through, because the 201 would be ahead of them by 10 points.
Well, looks like Miter Peters is going for the blue saber drop, which personally I'm not too sure. I haven't like labbed this, but it feels a little sad to have saber and steel ball on the same push versus sledge, because the saber is like a very slow firing unit, right? So in theory, it kills sledge as well, which is cool. That's a nice thing for steel balls, but also it's very easy to have the steel ball like almost kill a sledge and then the saber shoots it and like have that repeat over and over again, right? So it is a good tank for Miter Peters here, but there's obviously the orange man on the side of Monks that will pretty easily kill just about anything, so it makes the choice feel a bit dubious to me, particularly with the Fang Chaff as well. Pretty hard to say that we like for sure have colors up front the entire time, basically. So overall, not feeling too great about this drop for Miter Peters, but Marksman drop is acceptably good for Monks.
Yeah, Marksman drop into the Marksman Specialist is great. It's one of my favorite. If I'm in that spec, for sure. I like the way he's also considering defending outside. Far right, note that he's not running Assault Mode Marksman, he's gone to the full standard techs. What I would consider the standard set of techs for range war.
Yeah, there's not anything here that's too particularly exciting for having a lot of them in aggro v defense, so I don't think it's too impactful that he happens to get the Marksman drop as well as the Marksman Specialist at the same time here. If he had Assault Marksman on, though, it would probably be pretty impactful. Assault Marksman quite strong versus Steel Ball. Sometimes pretty okay in defense. Gotta be pretty brave to do that, though, I think.
Right. I was more thinking of it in terms of it cuts off a lot of the angle plays that Mater Peters could do. For example, he was thinking about that outside right positioning for a Marksman, which would cut off the Phoenix angle out there. There's all sorts of different little things that Monst is looking at covering off all the angles, and as one of the experts at finding all the angles, he's particularly good in finding them against his own board.
Oh wow, that is a really, really odd choice, I think. Smiter Peters opted for efficient tech research over additional deployment on round 3. That definitely seems like a wrong choice to me. That is my feeling about that. Almost everyone opts to take additional deployment when it's offered unless something exceptionally good is offered. Particularly if you're going to go ahead and unlock the sell button, that's very rough. Now, Ball Wraith is obviously what he's choosing to play here. There's not much ambiguity about that, and it's not a comp that has to have infinite deploys, so perhaps he's just saying, I don't care that much about that, it's fine. But efficient tech research does take quite a long time to pay off, and neither player has an exceptionally large amount of HP, and also his opponent took a very high tempo drop with a triple white marksman. I guess it's one of the lowest tempos of the triple drop, but even so. Also, quite a choice to play Ball Wraith into quadruple marksman. Yeah, particularly on the side as the orange marksman.
I mean, as Monst, part of my comment last round about the strength of that drop was assuming that just cut off the possibility of a Wraith play. So it's interesting to see Mater Peters really try to force that anyways.
Yeah, definitely something you might expect if perhaps your opponent didn't have like aerial specialization on the marksman, which Monst obviously does in this case, so that is definitely not part of this consideration for Mater Peters here, that's like not on the bar or something.
Yep.
Certainly it's very, very sad to be a Wraith on the same side as Orange Man that has aerial spec, so it's pretty safe for Monks to click that next turn. If you're buying into Wraith, you're probably not going out of Wraith. He might just not because the spot's so good. It's not like the Steel Ball plus Wraith board is going to be doing a whole lot with the oil in the field. And the Wraith also is a bit hard to get anything done here with the beacon. Obviously he can beacon part of this around the oil, but I think if you're Mater Peters here, you might even prefer to like attempt to push the other side of the board instead this turn, or even previous turn, away from the Orange Man if you're intending on going Wraith, be my thinking. Looks like both players take the shield drop, which is probably a fair bit better for Mater Peters than it is for Monks, but reasonably good for both. This goes for range Arclight as well. Makes pretty good sense. Cleans up all the chaff in front of the marksman for them to better shoot the Wraiths. Sets them up nicely to click aerial specialization next turn and clear Mater Peters better once there is no oil on the field.
And look at Monk's thinking about the weakness of his weak side rather than trying to reinforce his strong side. He thought about it. He does bring the bubble over eventually. Just I better be sure. But he's definitely thinking about those angles as well, because there are potential diagonals that could get in on this tower with the right pulls and the right plays.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much that, it's more so just it's the second turn of oil, and it's extremely common if you're playing aggro at a high level to beacon part of your board onto the weak side on that second round of oil, just so that it's not walking through the oil. But in this case, it's a little dubious maybe because he has both his corner part of his board as well as the middle part walking through the oil like very, very early, so... And also this oil is even like kind of drawn in a way that sort of makes it harder for him to do that, so it's even more difficult to make that transition. Yeah, I think that's really important here, actually.
Subtle importance, but yeah.
Yeah, I think making it harder for your opponent to choose to do that's quite valuable, so... Really nice oil for Monst. Despite his profile picture, by the way. Does have the no oil picture. Does do this anyways, has an amazing oil. Great play from Monst. Oh no, hopefully the server issues haven't infected the match. We're seeing a waiting for player to respond. That's usually not a server problem, but it might be in this case. Oh no. That's not good. Well, according to Match Director, that is something that is happening all the matches, only for 10 to 15 seconds or disconnect though, so should be all good, hopefully. Definitely this match does not look to be too affected. So you get the melting point drop for Monst. Doesn't seem too impactful, honestly. Maybe he wants to go for some diffraction melter, perhaps, is his thinking here. Not too sure. Honestly, a bit surprised to not see him sell it or just take the Typhoon drop instead. fairly common to see people go into... I believe that was offered, right? Am I crazy? Wasn't there an orange Typhoon or a blue Typhoon or something? Yeah, Miter Peters has the Typhoon. That definitely was. It's very common for people to go into Wasp against Aerospec in the spot, so a bit odd to see him not take the Typhoon, given that that fixes pretty much the one remaining problem his board has, although maybe he's a bit scared of like Loose Crawler, for example, being effective against it, and that's why he doesn't choose to do that. A lot of respect shown on the right side of this board for Miter Peters against Monk's potential to aggro him, by the way. Level 3 in the tower, even with nothing having threatened it the whole game so far. And I believe the right side of Monk's board defensively is being pulled to the middle too, so that part definitely is not going to the tower. But I think that's Miter Peters showing that he's aware he's potentially on 1 life, so he's just going to fully respect the possibility, which in some ways people could argue is like playing to lose, you know, if you don't think that your board's in a great position to begin with. So maybe you have to like disrespect that possibility in order to win. That's kind of how I feel looking at this board right now, but also Monks did choose the worst of the options available versus Miter Peters' Wasp play, so probably he'll be getting through this rounds.
The Wasps, in retrospect, turning into a very good play, or with perfect knowledge, looks like a very good play.
Yes, if you know your opponent is not going Typhoon, it's an amazing play. For a turn, at least. Personally, I feel like we would expect Monks to go Typhoon here, but Monks did not, so...
Yeah, I am a little surprised at that, because I do feel like Wasp is the... You know, Wraith, Wasp, Steel Ball is a pretty common pairings, or set of pairings?
Yeah, perhaps it was a nod to another one of the drops that was present. I was a bit distracted with the whole disconnection thing.
Yeah,
so I did not see what the rest were.
Yeah, I unfortunately had a similar issue. We've got Speed from Miter Peters, we have Orbital from Monst. The Orbital, of course, over the Wasps is going to be a great discouragement for them. These guys will have to fly through it. There's no really magically getting these folks out of it. You can get one of them out maybe, but not both. There could be a jump drive to pull them all over to the opposite side play for Miter Peters.
Yeah, it's possible, although unless he wants to, like, perhaps sell out of the left side entirely or something, it's pretty hard to do that. Because the goal of the Wasp is to be the chaff for the race, so if they're getting jump drives, then, you know, it's pretty hard for them to cheat at in most cases, unless the tower is dying really early. Monks does pick up Mustangs, gets them blue, a very nice choice. Very effective versus the Loose Crawlers as well. And in my eyes, even if he doesn't win this turn, I would say that probably seals the deal for the match, because Loose Crawler's one weakness, well, I mean, it has a few weaknesses, I guess, but its primary weakness is to Mustang. Units that have very small, discrete amount of damage they deal that are very effective versus a very small HP pool.
Are you the one that described it as the correct answer to Loose Crawler is anything that is the correct answer to Fangs?
I don't recall saying that, but I guess it's the same answer, so it's
pretty close.
Not a bad comparison.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, very similar. But yeah, I think that this Mustang pick here pretty effectively seals the deal in the game, because Wraith does clear Mustang fairly well, but Mustang clears red side chaff much better than anything else could, and also answers the Wasp and at least partially helps against the Wraith, so extremely effective, and that might even just end the game right there. Yeah, it does. It's a great play for Monks to elite recruit those, very impactful, and great choice to just get 3 and nothing else.
Right, the additional deployment slot came in handy. You didn't even have to pay 50 to mass recruit that round. And if we stopped and thought about Miter Peters, you talked about the strangeness of him taking efficient tech research on round 3, right? Looking at his board, he's only bought 3 techs, so he's only broken even on that decision. Like, literally, he'd have the same economy if he had taken the skip.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you don't see efficient tech research taken very often unless you're playing like Giga Standard Mirror or something. In which case it's fairly common. But
yeah, we're going to sit back here and play Standard v Standard, and we'll agree to have a 10-round game. it makes good sense. But you're the
Yeah,
aggro
exactly.
player. You're up here on the line.
Yeah, even in that case, though, you usually would not ever take it over additional deployment, like no matter what the game state is, unless it's like over immediately. But in which case you would skip, right, for both.
In which case you should skip it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we are now spectating Sako versus their player. Looks like Sako is the aggro player here. Their player is the defense. Sako is playing some Ball Typhoon. Now the player has any cards. This is just vanilla stuff. Looks like there was a level 3 Fire Badger drop. And that's all the drops we've had so far. There is a Armor Rhino on the flank right now. Hello. A level 1 Armor Rhino. And that is not a drop, by the way. So that is just a unlocked, naturally Rhino, which is very uncommon at the moment. So one thing I expect to see here, probably, if this oil had not ignited, by the way, is you probably would see Sako do the thing we were talking about in last game, where he beacons the right half of his aggro board over to this right tower on the second turn. But since there's a Fire Badger, it ignites immediately, so probably won't see it. But this would be a great time for it. And the Rhino on the flank is pulling the chaff and dealing with it relatively well, I suppose. Bit of an unorthodox choice there. Unless there was a chaff deployment made this turn that made that not able to get to the tower, you'd probably assume it's going to be a Fire Badger instead. Particularly not a teched Rhino. Maybe that's a signal that their player wants to do that as a... Oh, also there is one in the corner too, yeah, so that's part of why this was made as a choice then. Still a bit weird to not see the Badger up there, perhaps, unless again there was no chaff in the way, but works out rather well for him regardless. Sako does still out of the corner Badger. Sako insta-goes the laser sight on his orange steel ball. Which, that
is brutal.
Quite scary. Their player has not made any choice. Goes the Vulcan drop.
Vulcan's descent.
Well, there isn't really anything... Like, both towers... Oh, he's Goomba stomping. Oh, that makes way more sense. Or he's not, maybe. He doesn't know what he wants to do with it yet.
Trying to time the landing on that steel ball.
Yeah, it probably also kills the Phoenix. The way this interaction works, by the way, is that if the Vulcan... Well, I guess if you don't know what Goomba Stomping does in the first place, basically it heals the Vulcan's HP to the units that are beneath it, right? But also, if there are more HP beneath it than the Vulcan has, it still kills them. So it's like on a per unit basis, like each pack of steel balls is like 15k. So in theory, if there was like a bunch of shit here, it could kill all of it. Very, very effective against this like clump steel ball and Phoenix and etc. etc. Very strong. Very expensive, obviously. It's like a javelin basically at this point. It's like he's jabbing the steel ball and Phoenix. Very interesting. Not super common. Looks like it might miss though, at least in part due to this beacon by Sako. I'm not sure that's intentional, but
Of course, a reminder of the stakes since Massau lost in the previous match. Jer player is the last hope for the French 101 team. Must win or the team are eliminated. Even if he does win, I think they are behind on points, but it will come down to what decisions were made in terms of their double or nothing. I didn't hear if they had, the 101 had a double or nothing that they played this week. If that was
they put it on French Palette versus Shade, which was lost.
So they've lost their double or nothing then. Okay. So that's even worse for them.
Yes, and speaking of even worse, the Vulcan drop went atrociously due to this beacon by Sako. It killed one steel ball and one Phoenix. Not what you want to see from your $250 Vulcan drop.
Yeesh.
So Sako's HP is rather low here, but that's a lot of money spent on tempo. The oil bots, the Vulcan drop bots, the Rhino placed in the flank that will be dealt with. A lot of things that will be coming back Sako's way in his favor. There's another Vulcan drop. Surely he doesn't go for the javelin again. He's thinking about it this time. And Sako will probably be thinking about the same thing, so maybe you'll see him like beacon in a weird way to start or something.
There's also Berserk Rhino play.
Yeah, sadly it is quite terrible, but
it is terrible,
cool.
but it's hilarious.
It is. I've seen
wondering if he
Rhinos
was
one
thinking
tap
about
for
it.
it before.
Yes.
Maybe Sako would think about it for the meme. But their player probably knows this point. He's the last remaining member of his team, so he's probably trying very hard. Looks like both players eager at underground threat, of course. Pretty much an insta-pick unless there's something incredible on the board. Both players go for it on the right side against the fortified towers.
And yes, here it is. There is another Vulcan's Descent coming from chair player. He's
Oh no,
gonna
I think that's a
drop
visual
it.
bug, right? Oh no, he did take
no,
it. Oh, this is a previous underground threat. My
Yeah,
bad.
this
I
is
think
the
it was also
underground
offered
threat
in
from
these
round
cards,
2,
right?
I think. It
Yeah,
was offered,
did Sako
yeah.
take the underground?
So-
This? Okay, yeah, very confusing. Very, very
Yes.
confusing. Okay, yes. So this is a new Vulcan drop. It is now appeared.
Second attempt to jab something. This time we're going for the back left corner. Keep the Rhino alive by stomping the level 2 steel balls that killed it last round.
Yeah, which actually won't work, by the way, because Sako clicked range,
Sako
which he does not
ranged.
know. So, feels very... Oh, maybe it does work. They kind of push each other. Oh, no, that went horribly. Wow.
That
Rest
was
in
about
peace.
as bad as it could be for Rhino, and all 4 steel balls survived in that corner.
Yeah, that is very sad. Really showcases the inconsistency of Goomba Stomp as a mechanic too, because if you click on a giant and see its space that it occupies in the game, it looks like it'd be
Right.
huge, but that 4x4 that it occupies is definitely not its hitbox for the purpose of Goomba Stomping something, which I don't even know what its hitbox is for the purpose of that, because it's such a rarely used thing, but here you see why it's rarely used. It's very inconsistent. It definitely looked like it would hit those steel balls, and it just didn't, so very sad there if you're a Jer player.
It actually does make me wonder if the Goomba Stomp footprint should be correct to the unit that's being dropped, rather than just drawn. I think it's drawn
you'd
as a
certainly
visual
think so.
unit, right? But as a visual icon. But yeah, allow us to use it as a reference. This is what the footprint would be.
Yeah, certainly a lot smaller than the Javelin by the looks of it from the last 2
Yes.
rounds. Very, very small. Well, feels really bad, man, for their player. Sako goes to the boats, which feels a little sad versus the level 5, I think, marksman on the board right here. They both go for the boats. Sako has typical jump drive, cannon, mothership type stuff. Their player has... Oh, hey, I've seen Blue Hair running this bar yesterday. There's some people that are on the launcher range, high explosive boat train, which is a bit of a weird train to be on, honestly. It's one that can't run Mothership unless you don't want to run Photon, which is what Blue Hair was doing, which is really unhinged. Really, really, really unhinged, particularly in tournament play. Although perhaps in tournament play it's especially good, because everyone will always assume you have Photon, right? But maybe you just don't have Photon, but they're still going to act like you do, right? So you can extract some value from running a bar without Photon, at least temporarily. And you can even maybe try and bait someone into doing something that would be disrespecting Photon and then have it in the next game, right?
Right.
So there's some interesting tourney mind games you can do there. Obviously, they're not playing a best of 3 or something in this format, but it is something that people will take note of future weeks, right?
Right. And I mean, it's not like you don't have the potential of being tuned into my tournament weekend cast and, having seen what somebody's bar was from that while you're playing a different match, or you've finished your match in 5 rounds and his match goes 7, so you've jumped into it. Both players have taken our Overlord drop, so you've got Overlords for Jer player, Overlords with Chin Gun for Sako. Both players have 4 of them. Assuming
There's a boat on the top right flank, by the way. Very, very deep up there.
4v4, but that'll be a tower debuff for Jer player. Is it in time? It's really late.
Yeah, if it was not a fortified tower, I think it would have been a maybe acceptable timing, but there's just a bit too much garbage in the way.
And level 3 fortified tower took forever.
Well, nice showing from Typhoon Boat this round. Very notably, Sako's boat dueling techs are absolutely horrible, whereas Jer players are better, assuming he's not clicking high explosive, but also doesn't have Mothership, so I guess it's a bit of a toss-up. Certainly this round goes Sako's way, but maybe the launcher range ends up having an edge to some extent. It's actually a bit of a similar thing to what we saw, I think it was like the Pucci versus Zemp, like launch tourney final or something. Like Zemp chose to go launcher range boats, and Pucci had the bar that Sako is currently running, so we kind of already seen that play out, but it was the much stronger Typhoon boat board before it got nerfed, so it's a bit weird, particularly with having high explosive, not having mothership like I mentioned. That certainly changes the matchup a bit as the match goes on, but high explosive boats are also rather good at clearing wasps, but are then worse at killing boats, so there's like a lot of weird trade-offs and stuff, pretty much. Very odd. Odd matchup we're seeing here. Interesting to see it play out. High explosive has not been very popular. Not that he's clicked it yet, but assuming he does click it at some point, maybe it's like, I don't know, click for the steel balls perhaps, clicked for just crawler clear. His clear is not incredible at the moment, so you might see that soon. But again, it does like really heavily nerf his damage versus potentially Typhoon bubbles. I can't say I've ever seen that matchup play out because Typhoon wasn't in the game last time HE was at least semi-played, so I don't know if that splashes maybe both bubbles there. Who knows? Who knows? But the splash is rather huge. It did get buffed apparently.
Huge. And if you get it with the improved boat card, it gets really ridiculous.
Yeah, it can be rather large. I think it's like 19 meters splash or something with a approved boat. Not that we have that here, but it is really big at that point. Very cool. It's a bit of an odd beacon here that we're seeing from Sako.
This is a defensive beacon, right?
Sense.
It makes good sense. He's got the missile to slow the boat down. I'm going to get my Phoenix into position. I'm going to get my Typhoon into position. And we'll have some defense back here.
Yeah, it's particularly kind of weird because this thing that you're seeing play out here can happen, right? The Phoenix just goes and dies, and then the Typhoons are somehow idiots and just walking away from the boat. I don't even know how that one happens.
I can hear how tilted Sako is in my head from watching his streams.
Well, either way, the missile kills the boat, so I guess it's all good, but that was ridiculous looking.
That is perfect defense. Exactly the way Sako drew that up, right? Right?
Yeah. You will go with that, sure.
Well, Jer player is down to 854 hit points. That means the 101, the French team, are down to their final 854 hit points. He's got to turn it around. Any of these helping him do that?
Well, only one of these things hits boats. Sako goes the Saber probably to sell it. No surprise there, goes for Mothership, which I think is his main advantage with this type bar matchup that we have here. Probably going for Wasp Shield as well, I'm imagining, given the Wasp unlock and purchase somewhere. Yes also has Wasp Shield, so he has 5 boats. Yes, he has 5 boats worth of Wasp Shield, and their play goes for Armor Sledge, which in theory does some stuff versus the Typhoons. There's also range balls, of course, and boats with cannons, so I mean, these aren't old boat cannons, they're not one-tapping these sledges, it's level 1. Level 2 does one-tap them right now, though, I believe. Yeah, it definitely should. Unless there's, like, level 2 tower HP clicked in their player here, so I think that probably is going to wrap up the match pretty nicely, because most of these boats are blue, and even if they're not blue, then 2 white boat cannon shots or just some ball damage cleans it up rather nicely, so looking pretty rough, particularly with the presence of the Wasps as well, which honestly help everything survive. Like, if you just happen to eat one boat shot, that's just like incredible value by itself. Oh wait, the Goomba Stomp came back. Oh my.
Goomba Stomp is
there's not a whole lot of this one definitely will kill a boat. Okay, this time it's happening for sure, but the Goomba Stomp's a bit weak though. Obviously you can't just like put it wherever he wants. There's that little red circle around the towers, so he has to go for a pretty suboptimal looking one here. Does not try for the steel ball again.
He's got back-to-back shots at it, though, you know?
Yeah, at least this time it killed something.
Next round.
Yeah, it looks like it will be going Sako's way. It's got plenty of chaff in front of the boats this time. Plenty of chaff in front of the Typhoons as well, so all the sledges go down to Shingun and balls. And even right side's kind of winning too. So
yeah, the boats finally locked onto not chaff, but by then they were locked on too, and they've never even looked at Sako's boats once. It's down to a couple of steel balls. The 101 are down to some lack of upshoot storms. The 101 are disqualified, eliminated from this tournament. So we know at this point who the final 3 will be. We've had a survivor from all 3 of them. So the 601, the 501, and the 201 are through. Sako secures the finish.
Yes, indeed. And I believe we'll also have Massau, the 101 team captain, joining us in a minute or so to probably speak on how that is going for them. Feels bad to see them eliminated, but they did really well so far in the tourney. So
they did very well.
Honestly,
yeah,
really
they
good performance.
Came into today in 3rd place. They were very solid.
Yep, and nice turnaround from Sako to that game. I think he was like 1800 HP when we jumped in and got a clean finish. 1800, so nice work from him.
1800 hit points when we finished, right? That was you down to 1200.
Yes, indeed. Hello, Massau.
Hi. Pretty bad week for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, sadly it looks like 101's been disqualified.
Disqualified or not, technically just on the score. The last match, which was their player versus Sako, didn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you didn't have the math to come back after the previous loss.
Yeah,
right.
We needed...
you need a double win.
We needed French pilots who didn't get shade, mostly.
With the double or nothing. Yeah.
42, but it was really close, 42 HP. And then the only hope was Matt Peters win against Monst, and then maybe Arbiter win against Siri, and then in this case 601 is disqualified. Or maybe we can win. Or maybe we can win just with their double fail, double or nothing. But yeah, it didn't happen. So.
How much as a team captain? How much were you enjoying the elements like the re-roll, the double or nothing, the substitutions? Like, was that something that you were really digging into, like a manager of a football club would?
I think there was too much double or nothing in the first weeks. I think so. What's one thing? But it's fine. My main problem for this week, but it was the case for the 201 team almost all the time. We like to play. We like to coach each other in one game, and the fact we have two games at the same time was a little problematic. Because,
right, so you don't have your coaching call going the way you wanted to. You don't have the whole group behind them.
Most of our win last week from previous weeks was me, French pilot coaching, French pilot and Matt Peters mostly coaching me during my games, and then us coaching French pilot during his game, etc. Right. So yeah, it was a bit harder to do because.
How do you run those coaching calls, if I can ask, or what have you guys learned that you could share to, maybe mid-level players who are looking to raise their game about how to run that kind of conversation?
Technically, it's not really for raising a game, because here we are talking about especially for a game and the idea we can do, etc. So it's not the same, I think. But it's a good. So it depends on the player, but most of the time when it works, it's really good. It's why maybe you pre-shot some. You play Wasp when you wouldn't have done it before, because one of your mates just say maybe you should do this to prevent this, etc., and it helps a lot.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations on the run to 4th place. You guys did really well. Sorry to see you eliminated, but thank you again. No problem. We have our final match ready. Take it away, time.
Yeah, looks like we have Siri versus Forgotten Arbiter. Siri is Rat, of course, if you're not familiar. Siri looks to be going for an aggro pack. Very exciting. He's been playing a lot of standard lately, so I was a bit afraid we might see a standard matchup. It doesn't look like it, though. Looks like we'll probably be seeing some Arc Ball versus Spider Crawler action with headbutts. Very exciting. Arbiter and Suri, both great aggro players, both very capable of standard as well, but certainly, if you ask me, the aggro is way more exciting to watch, so I am very excited for this match. Suri is Rhino Specialist, by the way, and Arbiter is Fortified, which feels quite good if you're the Steel Balls versus the Tarantulas, I think. I almost thought it was reversed there for a second, but it is not. So the Spiders are not Fortified, the Balls are, and that is quite strong for the Balls in that matchup, I think.
Yeah, that is good.
It'd be very, very sad if it was the opposite, by the way. The Steel Balls do not care if you're Fortified, but they love being Fortified, so... Very nice. Oh, it's actually standard from Suri. Oh my gosh.
Do need to give a shout out. Thank you so much for the gift subs, Blue. You guys have about 10 seconds to keep a hype train going if you want. But Blue giving out subs to Jaspindar, Diogos, Sasta for Computer Program, and Death Apparatus. Much appreciated. Standard from Rat in defense against Arbiter's Steel Balls makes perfect sense.
There are marksmen hidden behind the towers, by the way. Those are very far forward. Also, he has Assault in the bar. These are not just normal standard marksmen. Honestly, a bit weird to see them in that spot. I don't know what kind of formation Suri is cooking here with this, but... very abnormal to say the least, but also that pretty much describes Suri's playstyle, so honestly this tracks. Very effective, of course, but always very unorthodox, which is why he's such an interesting player to watch, I think.
One of the things I've noticed about the way that Rat or Suri plays, he seems to wind up with boards that feel light to me in terms of he doesn't have as many units on it. He's not going for overwhelming might of numbers. You know, he's willing to sacrifice so many deploys to sell things, to jump around, to move to different places, that he winds up winning with boards that look like they should be weak, if that makes sense. Like if you just counted weight of numbers, it's, you know, his boards are weaker than his opponents, but he's always made them work by creating local superiority. Can you speak to how that is to play against as an opponent?
Yeah, I think that Suri just goes really hard for tempo plays, like things that take tower early, things that win the current rounds. So that is why you might observe that his boards seem a bit light. He's not trying to, like always at least, build the thing that is going to be best in like round 10. It's the thing that helps him win right now. Which, speaking of winning right now, we clicked Fangs, which I guess I don't get to see this play out often enough, so I'm not sure exactly how to evaluate it, but it certainly seems a bit dubious into the Mustang drop. Obviously, Arbiter's not that incentivized to click the Mustang here, but if you ever think your opponent does take this Fang drop, then you're definitely taking the Mustang. That's for sure. I don't think we'll see Arbiter mirror this choice, so probably it's going to be a Typhoon for him, if I had to take a wild guess. Also, Suri is going for this particular vertical crawler right here, which he's going to buy a mobile beacon for, and basically draw like upwards and to the rights. Oh, also, Arbiter does go for the Mustang, so this is a very sad Fang pick from Suri. These things are just going to feed the Mustangs to infinity. Which I think if you're against the Mustang, you're very, very, very unhappy about, so it's pretty catastrophic. Also, this particular crawler might be a attack against Suri as a player, by the way, because it is known, like he published a whole mobile beacon guide, right? So the stuff he has to say about beacons is definitely public, right? There's no question about that. But even if that weren't public, it's very easy to check his stream and that sort of thing to see what he likes doing. And this is a crawler that's, I don't know if he or Cast invented this, I'm not sure really, but
I think Cast
somebody
did.
Invented this, and yeah,
Cast and Suri are very close
this.
friends, so
yeah. So this particular crawler is pretty much neutered, I think, by what Arbiter has done here.
Yep.
In fact, I'm pretty sure I've seen him lab this particular interaction, or maybe it's Sako, but
yeah, I know the 501 as a team have labbed that interaction.
Oh, well, that is really, really bad. Yeah, that is catastrophic if you're a Suri in this spot. See this damage item drop. Arbiter obviously is going to put that on the Mustang, and these Fangs are going to feed that Mustang, and that thing is just going to go to the moon. Yeah, it is real bad. Honestly, I wouldn't even hate selling these Fangs if you're Suri here. It sounds like total insanity, but I kind of want to sell them. I would not hate seeing that. And he does have the sell button too, so it's... Oh, he puts it on him. Oh, okay, we don't care. We're just... Okay.
I was going to say, your choices are sell out or commit to Fang. And here we are.
Yeah, well, Siri is a Fang enjoyer. Does he have AP? He does not have AP, so... that is definitely a minus for being high-level Fang. If it's blue, it's a bit less sad, but... Certainly you're not that excited about clicking AP, or sorry, Ignite on level 3 Fangs. Not that it's going to be a soon thing, but you're always thinking about getting to the quadruple tech or triple tech situation if you're playing Fangs, so... Definitely consideration for, like, should you commit to this line or not is what techs we have on the bar. And this is more suited to, like, Fang spawning from forts, or just, like, you know, playing a standard defensive board and clicking Ignite at some point to solve a certain problem your opponent has presented to you. But it looks like he's just going full into Fangs.
Ignite really solid against, you know, something like a Wraith or a, you know, Scorpion, those sorts of things, especially if you can get to the point where, you know, my Ignite out heals or out damages your healing, so that, you know, somebody who's running a healing tech instead of an armor tech is just hosed. But it's definitely not what you wanted to see into Mustangs, since you're going to be in a head-to-head with a Mustang at some point. You're going to need to get through it. And the way to do that would be a armor piercing. That's the tech choice that Tim is talking about here. And I know Sako has labbed this out a whole bunch of times, and yeah, obviously the AP is the correct choice for the Fang gamer.
Yeah, again, to be clear, it's a good choice, Ignite, if you're only going to play around low-level Fangs, but if you're ever willing to take the high-level Fang drop, I think you're very sad if you don't have AP on the bar instead. Yep. And there is things that are not Mustang items. That's pretty good for Suri. Also things that are Rhino items. Also great for Suri.
Would you like heavy armor
heavy on his Rhino?
On a Rhino, yep.
It does have armor on the bar, of course. So I expect probably what Suri is going to do is some sort of tempo armor play. Maybe not on this Rhino particularly, but definitely you assume that you clicked range and your opponent is about to click as many Mustangs as can fit on their board. In most cases. Maybe not every time, but at least very soon we'll probably see something to that effect. So probably the way that Suri is able to win the game from here, in my eyes, is via some sort of armor tempo shenanigans, or get a fort drop on 5. That's always an option. So if Bear Like is kind to him and gives him 2 level 1 forts on 5, he is maybe not in a bad spot. If there's no fort drop, he is in a much worse spot. Fang at the moment, I would say, is so weak that you can even like not respond to it and still win. So for that reason, you might not see Arbiter actually commit super hard against Fangs here by buying a bunch of Mustangs that are perhaps weak to armor. Oh, he even goes for a fort unlock. Wow. So this actually bars Suri from getting that and forces him to do it himself, right? So neither player is giant spec, but both players want the fort. And he also knows, of course, that the Rhino is happening this turn, and correctly assumes that it is on his weak side.
Yep, just like we saw Flower Fairy
extremely common at the moments.
And you've got the absorption module on it to punch through it. We're going to take our time. Now, of course, Absorb Fort is probably the thing that Ignite is going to be best against. So that conversation has changed a little bit. And heavy armor Rhino able to punch through the fort with the backup of the Fangs behind. In fact, that thing is still alive, barely. It's going to get into the tower. And we've got the Mustangs sort of trapped in the oil. Oh, now we're trapping our own Fangs in the oil. That's almost even worse for Suri.
Yep, well, nice turn from Suri against the Absorbed Fort. Obviously good read from Arbiter that that's going to happen, but maybe you don't expect there to be like 4 Fangs, or I guess one was already there, 3 Fangs and the Rhino and the Heavy on that side. That's a little bit too much to kill, but that's okay.
Suri clicks that melting point so quickly, I don't even get art. He's clicked that before the art has loaded in.
Yeah, that's a bug we've been seeing fairly frequently in Spectator recently. Not really sure why.
I love it. Oh, it's because the display changes from the selected to the unselected, and the art load was coming into the other. It's going into the previous instance of the card. So,
well, none of these things are particularly exciting here if you're Arbiter. I guess maybe the best is the Typhoon, but probably you just take it and sell it most of the time. Typhoon is not exceptional in defang. It is like kind of a good tank, like it can just beat this left side by itself, which is like, I don't know, it's cool I guess. Maybe. Probably we're just selling it and buying forts though. Also a very weird board state that we found ourselves in here, because historically, before Melter got nerfed a bunch of times HP wise, it was about a 50-50 before unit drops existed for like whether or not Melter or Fortress was better to mirror against Fangs. But I certainly have never seen Melter Fang as a comp. Like sometimes you see a Melter Mustang as the Fang fort defense, but usually you just see forts staying in the modern day. But now we're seeing Melter Fang, which is just total bizarreness.
Melter Fang versus Fort Mustang. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that one. That's pretty weird. Also, there's not more Melters being unlocked, so maybe that's a bit of a tell that Siri is just using this for tempo, just trying to use the debate response perhaps, doesn't actually care about going into Melter. That would make sense, I guess. He does have Ignite too, so...
He also took Ignite, right? So he's got his giant answer even without his Melter. Although obviously it's going to take a while. But... both sides have towers.
Ignite
debuff.
Looks rather good. Like, Ignite definitively is worse versus bubbles than AP, there's no question about that, so... At a certain point, you're very, very sad to be Ignite. And particularly, you're extremely sad once any Photon comes out, or Farseer Photon. Which actually, did Arbiter take the Farseer? I guess that's a consideration for him.
That could have
versus
been,
the Ignite bar. No, he took the Typhoon, actually.
He took the Typhoon. Do wonder what he has on the bar. I did win a game recently because opponent just did not even conceive that I might run Farseer Photon as part of my defense. So.
Yeah, that button does not get clicked very often, so
it doesn't.
Sometimes people may discount it.
Yep.
Portable shield is much nicer for Siri than it is for Arbiter, because Siri is not against Ignite, and Arbiter is. Does not care though. Ignite does actually deal damage directly to health, by the way. Oh, he sells out of the right fort. That's kind of nice for Siri. Gets the right fort to be sold. Does go further into Melter.
And throws down the EMP barrage. He's aware of the weakness of Ignite against the barriers, and 2 different units on the board that could have gone barrier for Forgotten Arbiter. You also see these very brief mobile beacons from Rat. From Siri. He's changing facing of units to make sure they engage with places that he wants covered. So, for example, he's faced this crawler or parts of this crawler pack to cover that bottom left corner in case something shows up down there. If Forgotten Arbiter deploys something down there, he's got that covered. If Forgotten Arbiter does not, the crawlers have rotated back to the main fight before the battle's even started. So it's all good.
Kind of interesting that Arbiter does not care about addressing this right side. Maybe he's just planning on porting the tower. Also, Arbiter takes all of his actions in the last like 10 seconds, so... If you're wondering why is Arbiter not done XYZ yet, that's because he just is like me and never takes his turn until the very end, so we may not even see some of his actions because it gets done at the very ends. It looks like this tower is still level 2, so we have chosen that this is just not very relevant. It looks like that is correct, it's not very relevant. So great read from him. The left side does win in the time frame allotted where the debuff happens, and yeah. Nice read on how that round will play out from Arbiter. And there is, I believe, the Giga Mustang left alive in here. Yeah. Yeah, Giga Mustang should kill pretty much the whole board. Also, I want to say, it's not obvious, especially if you're not well acquainted with how this matchup's supposed to play out. But basically the way this matchup works in modern day Mechabellum Fang versus Mustang is that Mustang wins by an enormous margin. Which may bait you into like exclusively buying Mustangs in some cases, because it is such a hard win when you're buying them, but also if you buy exclusively Mustangs, you're exceptionally weak to just armor, right? Which is probably why we do not see Arbiter commit into a really, really large amount of Mustangs and instead commit into more fortresses and commit to bubble. That's his answer to the Fang DPS and the Ignite.
I lost to Monst on exactly that play.
Yeah,
you went
exactly.
armor after I had overcommitted to the Mustangs.
Yeah, so Arbiter's intentionally avoiding overcommitting to Mustang, even though it does win insanely hard against Fang at the moment, is the takeaway from that. So, yes, he could build Mustangs, yes, it would win, but also, yes, it's exceptionally vulnerable to something that could happen very, very easily.
And it's not even like that's an expensive thing for Suri to do. He's got armor enhancement. He's on the Rhino. He's got Rhino unlocked already. He can drop them down for relatively cheap. And they're going to tank the Typhoon. They're going to tank the Mustangs.
Yeah, definitely. And there is the Giga Mustang that has 269 hits, so it's like, you know, it's not just going to be fully stopping the board if Suri were to go armor here, so I don't hate it if Arbiter wants to, like, totally disrespect the possibility of armor, given that that's in the board, especially if, like, more damage items get dropped, right? Like, it's just, it's super doomed if you go the armor route, but assuming that does not happen, even just the one Mustang probably will be enough to kill whatever amount of Rhino gets dropped in the board. Unless they're, like, all recruited blue or something, which would be a pretty extreme investment into tempo.
Huge tempo, yeah. So it looks like Suri kind of correctly reading the idea that there might be another fort out here, throws down another melter. We've got all of the anti-bubble EMP shields, but he really needs to clear the crawler chaff. That seemed to be the problem last round in terms of this late surviving melter was locked on it. And again, the AP on Fangs instead of Ignite might have helped him clear the crawler chaff. This round it looks like it's going well. Tower debuff came in at a good time. It's certainly much better than it was.
Diff.
Yeah.
But the Giga Mustang is still alive, so it's pretty likely to just kill the entire board by itself.
Danger. Danger, Will Robinson.
Yeah, it looks like that's probably going to be how it's going to play out. They eventually get the towers, so that will probably do it. Melters are really squishy. They are just really, really, really squished, so that's also the reason that you're allowed to just, like, exclusively have the Mustangs unless they armor is because Melter can't tank Mustangs. Not that it really could in the first place, honestly. I've killed plenty of Melters just Mustangs, but especially current Melter that has also Iron Beam is happening. Current Melter has almost 31,000 HP, which is just, like, microscopic for a giant unit.
And apologies to everybody's phone who has activated thinking I am speaking to Siri instead of Suri.
Yeah, they're kind of similar, huh? Yep. We'll both take the Ion Beam here. The beam is way, way, way better for Suri than it is for Arbiter than it is for Suri.
Right.
This is yet another reason that you want to be Fortress many, many, many times more than you want to be Melter. My gosh, this Melter unit is terrible. Fortress is insane. He has to buy bubbles, he has to buy anti-bubble tech just to, like, have a sort of even matchup. His unit has no HP, it stands behind his board. It is just atrocious. There is a reason you do not see Melter Fang. But, again, this isn't me saying, like, this is Suri misplaying, it is what Suri felt forced to do based on the tempo of the game. Because he took the Fang drop, Arbiter took the Mustang drop, that's pretty bad. Arbiter gets the damage item into the leveled Fangs, that's pretty awful. Arbiter unlocks Fort, Melter gets offered, so Suri takes Melter, and here you have what the outcome of all that is. It's really bad if you're in Suri's spot.
And in particular, Rat can't pivot to the forts because he's, you know, obviously even now he's unlocked stacks, etc. But this absorb module on the highest level fort is going to be just devastating in the Fort View fort. So
yeah, I definitely think that's at least a fairly important reason that it's very hard for Suri to ever go for after that. Like that turn where he didn't take the Absorb and instead took the Heavy, which obviously makes the most sense, like for that turn on the Rhino, is pretty awful if he ends up needing to pivot to Fort afterwards. So Arbiter choosing to manually unlock Fort that round instead of wait for the drop and go for the Absorb was a pretty impactful choice, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's, as you're saying right now, I think that is the decisive moment of this game, is unlocking Fort, paying the 200 to ensure that Rat didn't get it as a drop.
Yeah, for sure.
Rat staying alive, was down under 500 hit points, does have to pretty much win every round from here on out. Gets the win, drops Arbiter to 2808, and that is a lot of Fang level. Holy levels, Batman. You tell us about the drops.
Yeah, that is indeed a lot of Fang levels, although
we
it
had
isn't
10 levels of
relevant?
Fang level up offered.
Yeah, it's mostly like bubble DPS there, right? Which I think the more important thing is the Arbiter's bubbles don't level, so the Melters
One of them does.
do probably break at least the right one. They probably don't hit the left one, I don't think. It's a bit RNG, but the orange fort bubble definitely will not break. Orange fort can definitely kill the Melters. Oil is obviously quite impactful. But kind of weird. Very weird game state. We've been dropped only health items, which is obviously useless for the fort player versus the Melter, but very good for the Melter versus the Mustang. And yeah, I'm not too sure what happened that last round either. Like, the beam, I'm guessing, killed like every single Mustang somehow, including the Giga Mustang. I think that's the only reason the Arbiter didn't win the game last rounds. Very weird board state overall, though. The RNG has definitely been very weird for both sides. But Arbiter making a great choice here to rebuy this fort. Helps prevent the Melter EMP barrage from killing it. I might even like to see it like spaced a little bit further over since he is rebuying it. You might make that adjustment as the round comes to an end.
Yeah, so he's sold out of the level 1, rebought it at level 2, is what Time is saying, and that's strengthened the shield bubble, which is pretty important for him.
Yeah, Melter Barrage usually clears level 1 bubble, like 1 Melter, 1 bubble for level 1, but obviously Barrage does not scale and bubble does, so that is why he's choosing to rebuy this. Feels it's pretty important that his bubble is not instantly going down to where this right side does not collapse as hard, which I think is a pretty good read on how you want this round to play out. Tower timing is really, really bad for him, though.
Why hasn't he addressed that, do you think?
I'm not really sure. I haven't been paying too much attention to this side. It's probably because he thinks it will play out a certain way and something gets added to where it doesn't, or it's just like Ignite is doing some bad stuff to him. I'm not too sure, honestly. I haven't been paying too much attention to this side. It has been like going fairly well for him until this round, so I'm not sure exactly what changed here.
So maybe he made the same read you did, that the Ion was the critical part last round. He did add, I believe he added these this round. The Elite recruited the Mustangs back there and thought that was going to help, but they got locked onto the Rhino. So maybe he even thought he was addressing it in a appropriate way. But
yeah,
that Rhino.
Well, at this point of the game, we're at
so
the part where the Ignite is super strong versus the drops. So the drop is probably a lot worse for Arbiter than it is for Suri. Arbiter does sell the drop, I'm pretty sure. I don't think I see. Yeah, he definitely took the worm and it is sold, so you probably expect to see him tech his forts or buy more blue forts. Probably at least one's going on this right side over here. Yeah.
Please, yes.
I don't know what changed here, though.
Range.
I guess it's just these Fang levels.
Yeah, the Fang levels
have been getting
out of control.
Also, very important that he does choose to range the forts here. It's a little weird on this left side because the fort does start so far forward that it won't actually like tank correctly. Like, the idea here is that the fort is no longer tanking the Fangs, and also isn't tanking the Melter whenever you range the fort, because it changes which one's standing behind which. But if you're not walking forward, then that might not actually happen.
Right.
Also, does look nice with the Mustang this round.
Yeah, the Mustangs in theory now tank for the fort instead of the other way around. And yeah, HE on the Mustangs will make them more efficient at clearing the crawlers, I would think, which is the first chaff to get through. There's launcher overload. That's what I was imagining he needed. At least for protecting this weak side.
Both here.
Yeah, but it's also specifically good against the possibility of the worm drop.
Yeah, I think you always expect the rat takes the worm drop here.
Yeah, yep.
And you definitely assume it's going to be armored and that you need the fort's alive to kill it, so
right.
Feels like Forgotten Arbiter is like pretty much having to click one or both of these buttons this turn. Definitely at least launcher, probably also range we're going to click launcher. And suddenly he has damage to kill Melters, so that's also great for him.
2 packs of Fangs from the front side get that tower, even though he's successfully defended the back side of it. Worm.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised to see that he didn't like missile that or anything.
Right. He couldn't. There was a anti-missile device there.
Oh, I see. By the way, Arbiter has taken it with the Fort Mustang. Definitely makes a lot of sense the game ended this way, but man, it was getting a little close here with the item drops helping out the Melter's lot and this tower timing on the right and the ion beam. Like, It was a lot closer than you would expect from Siri taking the Fang drop and Arbiter taking the Mustang drop on 3.
Right. Certainly didn't know how that was going to play out by the end of it. And I think what this showed is just how strong Fang gets late game. Winning round 8, winning round 9 after they've, round where he was able to level 10 of them on the same round. He just clicks upgrade all, and to quote Saul Greatman, thank Bear Like for upgrade all. Indeed. Fang just hyper scales so well, and that is why, as a defender, you need to play into that much more quickly. I'm not saying that Arbiter played it poorly, and that he wins, right? But to respect the Fang with range early is critical for you if you're running into Fang gaming. At whatever MMR you're at, you have to respect the possibility of it. And one of the things I've been trying to do lately is disguise my Fang gaming to show up with a kind of sneak through getting one more Fang on the board, and without setting off somebody's alarms, because they're noticing the big things that I'm adding, not the little chaff. And then all of a sudden it's a Fang carry game. And so... Sajsudo wanted to ask if you would answer time. Why didn't Rat consider Fang Shield on that last round? Like, for example, you could sell out of the Sandstorm. Yeah, it's just the Mustang.
You just go armor.
Yeah, the Mustang attack speed
is a lot better.
Yeah, the Mustang attack speed.
It just doesn't have any
so
particularly decent breakpoint or anything like that. It's just you're slightly tankier, but it's not really helping. Also, I think Sako is here. Hello, Sako.
Hello.
Hey, welcome in. How was your day?
I won my first match. This is good.
It is the first.
off the schneid. Congratulations.
Oh my goodness. I was getting spelled to death, but we survived.
Yeah, we were wondering. We joined your match when you were 1800 HP, and then you never lost another round, so... I guess that's
double oil Vulcan, and he had a nice ball cheese. I had my left tower open, so he got that. So just a bunch of HP damage, but we prevailed.
That was also the game with the double Goomba Stomp, right?
Yeah, I wasn't managing all the Goomba Stomps, but there was stuff flying all over the place. I don't know. I think Typhoons died, boats died. I don't know. A bunch of stuff. I wasn't paying attention.
Well, actually, it was very deceptively sad from at least the spectator side. I don't know if that's a visual bug or something that we were observing, but the Vulcan drop is definitely not at all matching its visual indicator, we'll say. Because we were looking at it the whole time and we're like, oh, it's probably going to kill this entire pack of balls. That's pretty insane, and it does nothing. It was very
the hitbox is I've never fully labbed it out, but the hitbox, I don't fully understand how it works, but yeah, hitting balls is very hard to do. Hitting wraiths and boats feels a lot easier, but I don't know how you hit a full ball pack.
Yeah, it seems impossible.
I wonder if ball has a small hit pack.
Yeah, that might be the reason. Maybe it's not that Vulcan's that small. Maybe it's just ball is small. Because it's really easy to hit boats and wraiths, like Sako said, so I'm not really sure what the problem is.
Probably the movement too. Yeah. Sometimes the balls move weird off the spawn.
Right.
Because they bump into each other, I think, but maybe that's something to do with it.
Yeah.
Well,
how are you feeling in that match versus all those spells?
I felt honestly, I was. That's the only thing I was worried about. I wasn't too worried about. Well, to be honest, I never actually. This is the first time I did my boat techs against carry boat techs, and I was a little bit worried. I'm I'm pretty sure you can win with Wasp summoning, Wasp shield against carry boats because the second wave comes in and the boats are useless. So that was I was a bit worried about, but ended up being fine to just produce the carry boats.
Yeah, that was a pretty interesting matchup. It was pretty similar to that Zemp via Pucci game in the launch tourney finals we were discussing when we were casting it. It was cool to see it play out. I suspected your bar would win, and it did. Although it wasn't clear if it's the bar won or all the money spent on spells won you the game. But either way, that is game.
Yes. But it's also similar to, I haven't tested this out, but fort mirrors. I wonder, because I don't run launcher on my forts, don't tell my opponents, but does Fang production beat launcher range forts? Maybe with Fang shield. Obviously it depends on the board, but I wonder if sometimes you can outproduce if you don't have the best techs.
Yeah, I kind of suspect the same thing. I've been contemplating taking off launcher for Fang production, but I'm also a Fang production hater, so it's hard for me to justify.
Fang production is so nasty. Like, if you play Fort Stang, you don't really need Fang production because like your Mustang is basically your like Fang production, right? Because they chat for your forts. But
Yeah,
you know, on other
exactly.
boards, sometimes it's really like it's very hard to kill a bunch of late Fang shields. Like that's the problem. Like you need fire basically.
And
Yeah, exactly.
by the time you're spawning that third pack of them, the third production of them, all the fire's gone.
Yeah, that too. Unless you have like the war crime Vulcans in the back or something crazy, but
Yep.
Been seeing some people try that versus conclusions Fang spawning shenanigans. I haven't seen it work that well most of the time, but it's an option certainly.
it is definitely an option. I mean, like, what else do you do? Like, if you go Firestorms, you get AM'd. If you go Mustang, sometimes, like, if you're not fast enough, your Mustangs lock onto the fort, and then your Melter, or whatever your solution is for fort, is useless because it's now shooting Fang Shield. So, I think it's a hard problem to solve if you let it get going. Like, 7 forts, Fang Shield, Range Shield, like, that's probably hard to solve, I think.
For sure.
I was going to say congratulations. Your win against the 101 knocked them out, and Dilla's win against B-Man had guaranteed that you guys were through. But you guys have finished what we would call the regular season of this tournament at a commanding lead, 335 to 210 from the 201, 190 from the 601. How are you guys feeling going into the sharp end of the tournament?
Oh, of course, we're feeling very good. Like, basically, we don't drop any matches, except if you count my matches. Sometimes they drop, but we're feeling really good. Feeling really confident. Unfortunately, 101 is out as well, but it should be exciting finals.
I'm really looking forward to the finals. That should be a ton of fun. We've been talking with all of the different teams about how they run their coaching and their calls. So what are you guys doing? Like, how does your, for example, you're playing Jer Player. Did you have the whole team in the booth? Do you have half the team? And what does that kind of communication look like or sound like?
Yeah, for my games, I don't do hive minding because I can't focus. I need to just mute up, blast music, and play the video game. But Arbiter, what do you call it? Usually hive minds with the rest of us, like whoever is available.
Right.
Like just for this match that passed, we were in the call. But Dillo, I think Dillo also, he mutes up, Zillag mutes up as well.
Okay. So different players with different preferences, etc.
Yeah, like with Arbiter, we usually do this, even like not in tournament matches, just like backseat, and we're kind of used to this, I guess, like playstyle.
He's also used to me trolling him in call.
We're trolling too. We're like, no, we take the fangs. We take the fangs that match. I don't know why Siri took the fangs, but I almost baited Arbiter into fangs.
Oh, that would have been cool. I'm sad you didn't successfully bait him.
Well, I was like, I said about, I'm like, it's a 30 match. Okay, never mind. Take the fangs. No trolling.
How did you guys come to the decision to unlock the fort? Is on round 4 to drop it? I think blocking out the possibility of a fort drop for Rat on round 5, and we did actually get the unit drop on round 5. So I thought blocking it out on round 4 was critical for you guys. How did you guys make that decision, or whose thought process was that? Was blocking it out part of the thought process, or was it just this is what we need against the Rhino?
It wasn't. There's no thought process of blocking it. Also, I think if Siri's still running the same text, the fort text, like you don't take a fort mirror against Mustang Fort. Also, but like also with Arbiter's fort text, I don't think you're gonna come up ahead. But it was just we want the fort because like that's our end game comp, Mustang Fort. It beats Fang, whatever Fang variation that's coming, and there's a Rhino turn, so we kind of put it down. And it was kind of surprising that heavy armor Rhino beats a absorption fortress.
Yep.
Like there's a bunch of Fangs behind really it. Weird. I guess maybe that helps, but yeah, the Rhino owned.
It had like 2 hit points left, but yes, it did.
Yeah. It was a bit surprising, but
have you ever seen Melter Fang as a comp?
It's a comp you do. You don't want to do it, but sometimes you kind of have to because you're like the absorption fort is like broken. Like you can't kill that. And I mean, Melter's honestly kind of sad into Fortress, especially Mustang Fortress. But I mean, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So kind of have to take the Melter, because like, what's the other option? War Factory, and then probably still lose to Absorption Fortress? I don't know.
Very true. Well, I don't want to keep you too long, Sako. Thank you for joining us and giving us a lengthy interview about the game. Very entertaining, very cool game. Thanks so much for being here. I think that is all of our matches for the day, right? So
that
I'm going to sign us off, Hamrock.
Our day is complete. We've got the standings. So disqualified in week 1 were the 301, the German team. Disqualified in week 2 were the 401, the Russian team. Disqualified today, the 101, our French team. Third place finishing with both Baller and, well, let's see. Hold up. Okay, I know how this works, actually. In fact, we might need the match director to clarify, since Monst lost to Zillalag. Cast, Siri, and Monst have all lost today. Which means if Monst was eliminated by that last loss, that would actually put the 601 disqualified. And that was the risk they were taking by not resurrecting Baller to have 4 players available. Right? If Baller loses that final match, if Baller loses that final match, then it doesn't matter because Monst can revive the whole team. But since Monst lost that final match, it's all 3 of them have lost. So I do wonder if they are actually disqualified, and I'm seeing an error on the screen. But as it stands at the moment, the 601 are in 3rd place at 190. We'll wait for match direction to confirm. 201 in 2nd place at 210. 501 far and away the best, having scored 150 points today, bringing them to a total of 335. So had the best day after coming into the day in the lead, and all but guaranteed qualifying as long as somebody won. Dillo achieved that in the very first match. So big congratulations to the 501 team, to the 201 team for scraping it through from 4th place to 2nd with a tremendous day. As B-Man said, they won all 3 weekend tournaments last weekend and have a very strong team. I do think if it comes down to 501 versus 201, that is the classic rivalry, and we'll wait for confirmation on whether the 601 are through or not. Congratulations. Mm-hmm. All right. So we do have a clarification from match direction. I'm not sure if you guys heard that or not, but they process the eliminations in order of disqualification. So the fact that the 101 were eliminated at 15:20 when Sako finished off Jer player, and the 601 weren't eliminated till 15:50 when Monst loses, means that the 601 were still the 3rd place team, and that there is a specific rule set allowing the 3rd place team to have a player in the finals. So that the 601 are through. There's no question there that the rules were unambiguous. I didn't understand that, so I appreciate Match Direction giving us the explanation. Time, thank you so much for joining me for today. I really want to give the shout out to the team captains and the players from all 4 teams. This has been tremendous. From Rooster for making his day available to cast the alternate matches, and he's been doing a great job at packaging those up for YouTube as well. And of course, you can find all of the action from Mechabellum Advanced Group 1 on YouTube or MAG1 Live here on Twitch. Really appreciate you guys joining us. Thanks for everything you do. Yes, win big. Thank you, Time. And thanks to all of you, the viewers. Good night.